Thank you, Adam. This is a bit of a tough gig to follow because, first of all, it's Adam, and then second of all, he was giving away free stuff. I work for an insurer. I assure you I've got no free stuff for you. Okay. Let's see where we go here. I'm going to paint a bit of a picture for you and a story about how we assess risk and how fatigue has sort of crept into that assessment of risk and how that potentially impacts your insurance and your insurability. We'll look at risk engineering, who we are, who our group are within Zurich. This didn't move on the screen, is that? That's okay, I'll just... That's okay. And we'll look at risk ratings and how we use them to assess risk, why we do it and what we get out of it, the fatigue factors that have come into our risk ratings, and some examples from the field. I think that'll be the most interesting for you at the end, in that it really paints a picture of what's going on in our heads when we're looking at these risks and how we're thinking about your operations and what it means as far as how we price and whether we insure you or not. So they'll sort of wrap up with the gold nuggets at the end. That's who we are, risk engineering, with all that experience. But I really want to draw your attention to the last 2 points, is that we report the risk quality and the quantity, you know, how big the bang's going to be when it goes off for underwriting. But we also, because of the frameworks we've got and the systems we've got, we identify opportunities for improvements for customers. So our principal charter, the reason why risk engineering exists and why Zurich pay people like me, is we report to the underwriter that the quality of the risk, so the likelihood of things to go wrong, and then we explain to the underwriter how big the bang's going to be when the bang goes. And that can be property, liability, motor fleet. I will be talking motor fleet specifically in here, workers' comp, all those sort of things, machinery breakdown, business interruption, all that sort of thing. We do it across all those lines of businesses. But with this last item, we're helping clients not claim is what it's all about. So we want to take your money, employ someone like me to help you never claim. That's the idea. It doesn't happen, of course, because there's so many things that can go wrong, but that's what it's all about. And we really simplified this. I mean, we hear a lot of things about the definitions of what is risk, and people, you know, you'll see typically it's a function of severity and probability. You'll hear the media definition of risk saying that it's hazard times outrage. But at Zurich, we get back really to a very simple principle, and that is, what is the balance of exposures and controls? So the higher the exposure, the higher the control you need to offset it. The lower the exposure, the lower the control for adequacy. That's just to be acceptable, and that's acceptable to you and acceptable to your other stakeholders like insurers. We do that. We use a thing called risk rating to assess this balance of controls. So we are risk assessors. What we do is risk assessment. But we're looking at it very much from this balance of exposure versus control. And I really encourage everyone, it is the Zurich way as such, but I really encourage everyone to when you think about risk going forward, if you try and look at it from that angle, it's relatively simple. It's really simple, and especially in the FRMS space. I mean, when we first met years ago, we were gobsmacked with the tools and the rigour that was available compared to just prescriptive hours. And then when we sort of cross-shared some of our tools, there was like this realisation that risk doesn't have to be that complicated. It can be relatively simple. So this is the insurance impact, and it's just to demonstrate what I was saying, that if you're more on the exposure side of this balance, then your premium and your risk rating, or